The Knight's Oath, bound by love and honor. Brianna, darling, Sir Athdar chuckled. Your steed is as spirited as a spring colt. I grimaced and gripped the reins of my snorting, bucking mare. Her spirit is about to be the death of me. The other knights, all men, laughed, their voices a mix of good-natured teasing and genuine amazement that I could handle the beast. I rolled my eyes under the visor of my helmet, but a spark of pride flared in my chest. They hadn't expected much from the girl who'd fought her way into their ranks, but here I was, keeping pace with the best of them. The fortress grew larger as we approached, a stark contrast to the rolling meadow we'd ridden through. Its walls were a stark gray, a frown etched into the landscape by some ancient, displeased god. The drawbridge was a scar across the moat, a silent challenge to any who dared approach. Sir Athdar raised his sword. Remember why we're here? He called over the din, for honor, for East Abria, for the princess. The battle cry went up, and we thundered across the bridge, my heart pounding in time with the hooves. The castle gates lay ahead, and I could see the guards scurrying to close them. But we were too fast, too determined. We crashed into the courtyard, and the clang of steel on steel filled the air. I tightened my grip on my sword and swung it in a wide arc, feeling the weight of it in my hand, the power behind every strike. Summary: 1. Brianna, the only knight among the 20 knights of East Abria not of noble birth, struggles to control her spirited mare while being teased by her male companions. They charge towards the fortress to rescue the princess, and as they enter the castle, Sir Athdar reminds them of their mission. Despite initial challenges, they make it to the courtyard where they are met with resistance, and battle begins. The chaos was a whirlwind around me, but I had one goal: the tower. The green, which had been clear, Princess Enid was being held in the highest room, with a butterfly etched into the stone. I had to get to her before the others did. If I could just prove my worth, maybe they'd finally see me as one of them. I dismounted, the armor feeling heavier than ever. Hold them off, I shouted to Sir Athdar, pointing to the tower. He nodded, and together we pushed through the melee. The scent of blood and sweat filled my nose, but I ignored it, focusing on the task at hand. The tower door was thick and solid, but I raised my axe and swung with all my might. The wood splintered, and the door gave way with a deafening crack. Inside it was dark and quiet, a stark contrast to the battle outside. I took a deep breath and climbed the winding staircase, each step echoing like a drum in the stillness. As I reached the top, the door to the room swung open, and there she was. My heart stopped. She looked just as I remembered from the stolen moments we'd had together, beautiful, with her red hair tumbling over her shoulders and her eyes as blue as the midday sky. But she looked older, more regal, and definitely more terrified than she had when we'd last parted. "Princess," I said, dropping to one knee, "I've come to rescue you." Her eyes widened and she took a step back. "Brianna," she whispered. I rose to my feet, my heart racing. "It's me," I said, my voice thick. "We need to go." Summary: 1. Brianna leads the charge to the tower where the Green Witch had said Princess Enid would be. Despite the chaos of battle, she remains focused on her mission. Upon reaching the tower, she and Sir Athdar fight their way in and ascend the stairs. At the top, she finds Enid, who is surprised to see her. Brianna identifies herself and urges the princess to leave with her. But she didn't move, and the expression on her face was one of fear. Not fear of the battle or the tower, but of me. Or rather, fear of what I represented. A return to a life she'd chosen to leave behind. The clamor of battle grew closer, and I knew we didn't have much time. "Your Highness, please," I said, taking a step closer. "We must hurry." Her eyes searched mine, and I saw the conflict raging within her. She was a prisoner here, but she was also safe. I didn't know what she was thinking, but I knew one thing for certain. This rescue was about to get complicated. "Brianna," she said softly, "you shouldn't have come." "I had to," I insisted, taking another step closer. "Your father, the king, sent us." "But I don't want to leave," she said, her voice shaking. "I've found refuge here with Aunt Augusta." "Refuge from what?" I whispered, unable to believe what I was hearing. "From a life of duty," she said, her voice dropping to a whisper. "From a marriage I don't want." I stared at her, stunned. "But you're a princess. Your duty is to marry and unite our lands." "My duty," she said, her voice strong despite the tremble in her hands, "is to live my life as I see fit." I swallowed hard, understanding dawning. "So you ran away?" "I didn't run," she said, standing a little taller. "I sought refuge. Here with Aunt Augusta, I can choose my own destiny." Summary (1). Upon finding Enid, Brianna is met with the princess's fear and hesitation to leave. Enid confesses that she chose to stay with Queen Augusta to avoid an arranged marriage, seeking a life of her own choosing. The situation becomes complex, as Brianna realizes her rescue mission conflicts with Enid's wishes. The castle was now a cacophony of clanging swords and battle cries. Our time was running out. "Your father will never allow it," I said, trying to keep the panic from my voice. "But you will," she said, taking my hands. "You've always been the one to believe in me, to see me for who I truly am." I searched her eyes, and the love I felt for her swelled in my chest. "But I'm a knight," I said, torn between duty and desire. "I can't just." "You can," she said firmly. "You can stay with me. Be my champion. Protect me from those who would force me into a life of misery." The words hung between us, heavy with hope and fear. To stay with Enid would mean turning my back on everything I'd worked for, on everyone I knew. But to leave her here was unthinkable. "But what about East Abria?" I whispered. "What about our people? Their fate is not mine to decide," she said gently. "But yours is." The thundering of hooves grew closer. Sir Athdar burst into the room, his face flushed with the heat of battle. "Brianna, we're needed. The enemy is pushing through." I looked at Enid, her eyes pleading with me to choose her. And in that moment I knew what I had to do. "Take her to the Queen," I told him. "Make sure she's safe. I'll hold them off." He nodded, understanding the gravity of the situation. He took the princess's arm, and she gave me one last lingering look before being led away. Summary (1). Overwhelmed by her feelings, Brianna considers Enid's request to stay. Despite her knightly duty to return the princess to East Abria, she is torn by her love for her. As the battle intensifies, Sir Athdar arrives, and Brianna decides to allow him to take Enid to safety while she holds off the enemy. Summary (2). Brianna, the skilled non-noble knight, faces challenges with her unruly horse during the charge to rescue Princess Enid. They battle through Queen Augusta's fortress and find the right tower. Upon discovering Enid, she is met with the princess's unexpected desire to stay, revealing she sought refuge to avoid an unwanted marriage. Alone, I faced the open doorway, sword at the ready. I had made my choice. I would not force Enid back to a life she didn't want. I would stand by her side, whatever the cost. The first enemy knight rushed into view, and without a second thought, I stepped into battle, my heart pounding with a fierce love and a newfound determination. I was no longer just a knight of East Abria. I was a knight for Enid, and I would fight for her right to choose her own fate. As the man approached, I swung my sword in a wide arc, catching him off guard. He stumbled back, and I took the opportunity to advance, driving him down the stairs. He collided with two more soldiers, and they tumbled down in a tangled mess of armor and limbs. I didn't wait to see if they got back up. "Brianna, hurry." Enid's voice called from below, and I knew she was right. We had to move fast. I took the stairs 2 at a time, leaping over the fallen bodies of our adversaries. In the courtyard, the battle raged on, but our numbers were dwindling. Our men were outmatched by Queen Augusta's elite guards. When I reached the ground floor, Sir Athdar was fighting valiantly, surrounded by 3 opponents. His shield was dented, and he had a cut above his eye, but he was holding his own. "Take the princess to the queen's chamber," he shouted. "I'll hold them off." Summary: 1. Having made her choice, Brianna fights alongside Sir Athdar to protect Enid's decision. They manage to fend off attackers and make their way to the queen's chamber, where they hope to find refuge and a future together. I didn't argue. I took Enid's hand, and together we sprinted through the corridors, dodging arrows and ducking under swinging swords. We could hear the cries of battle growing fainter as we put distance between us and the fighting. Finally, we reached the chamber. The door was unguarded, and I pushed it open to reveal a room bathed in candlelight. Queen Augusta sat at a table, her eyes wide with surprise as we burst in. "Your Highness," I panted, bowing low. "Your niece seeks your protection." The queen's gaze darted to Enid, then back to me. She took in my armor, the East Abrian crest, and the urgency in my eyes. "What is the meaning of this?" she demanded, standing swiftly. "Your sister, the Queen of East Abria, has sent me to bring Enid home to marry against her will," I said, my voice firm. The color drained from the queen's face. "She would do that?" "Yes," Enid said, stepping forward. "But I won't go. I won't marry a man. Not when I can stay here with you, Aunt Augusta. You understand. You know what it's like to love a woman." The queen's eyes softened, and she stepped around the table to embrace her. "Of course, my dear. You are safe here with me. Brianna, you are welcome to stay as well. Your valor has earned you a place in my court if you wish it." The words were like a cool breeze, lifting the weight from my shoulders. I could serve Enid here, protect her, and be by her side. It was everything I'd ever wanted. Summary: 1. Reaching the queen's chamber, Brianna explains the situation to Queen Augusta, who is shocked by her sister's intentions. The queen embraces Enid and offers Brianna a place in her court, granting them both the protection and acceptance they seek. "Thank you, Your Highness," I said, dropping to one knee before the queen. "I pledge my sword to you and to your service." The queen raised her hand, and I felt a warmth in my chest as she accepted my oath. "Rise, Dame Brianna of East Abria. You are now a knight of my realm. Welcome to your new home." The battle raged on outside, but in that moment, I knew I'd found my place. With Enid by my side, I had no doubt that together, we could conquer any challenge. Our future was uncertain, but I was ready to face it. For the first time in my life, I felt truly seen and accepted for who I was. And with that feeling, I knew that no matter what lay ahead, I would never regret the choice I'd made in that tower room. We spent hours in the Queen's chamber, sharing our story and our hopes. Enid spoke of her dreams to learn from the witches, to understand the magic that had always called to her, and to find a way to be true to herself in a world that didn't always understand. Queen Augusta listened with a gentle nod, a knowing smile playing at her lips. Her eyes searched mine, and I could see the wheels turning in her sharp mind. Summary: 1. Brianna swears her allegiance to Queen Augusta, who accepts her into her court. Inside the Queen's chamber, Enid opens up about her desires to learn magic and live true to herself, as Brianna feels a sense of belonging and purpose with Enid by her side in this accepting environment. When the castle was secured, the three of us sat around the table, surrounded by the flickering light of candles and the quiet whispers of the night. "Enid, your sister's intentions are clear," the queen said, her voice steady. But here in my realm you are free to choose your own path. And if that path leads you to Brianna's side, then so be it. For love is the strongest magic of all, and one I will not stand in the way of. Tears of joy filled Enid's eyes as she reached for my hand, and I squeezed it tightly, feeling the warmth of her skin and the pulse of her heart against my palm. It was more than I'd ever dared to dream. Not just acceptance, but encouragement. In the days that followed, I settled into life in the castle. I trained with the Queen's Guard, learning new skills and tactics, and every moment was a reminder of the trust placed in me. The other knights whispered about us, but their words held no sting. I was a knight of the realm, and my place was beside the woman I loved. Weeks turned to months, and as the seasons changed, so did the whispers of war. East Abria was not the only kingdom with its eye on our lands. The balance of power was shifting, and Queen Augusta knew that she needed all her allies, including her newest knight and her beloved princess. But as we rode out to meet potential enemies, I knew that our greatest battle was behind us, the battle to be together. With Enid's hand in mine, I was ready to face whatever lay ahead. Summary *1. Queen Augusta acknowledges Enid's choice to stay and allows Brianna to serve her. They share a heartfelt moment of acceptance and joy. Brianna integrates into the castle life, training with the guard, and despite external threats, their love remains the strongest bond as they face the changing political landscape together. One evening, as we sat on the castle battlements, watching the sun set over the rolling hills, Enid turned to me. "Brianna, I want to tell you something," she said, her voice tentative. "I know you've given up so much for me, and I placed a finger over her lips, silencing her. "You gave me everything when you asked me to stay. Don't ever doubt that I'm here because it's where I choose to be." Her eyes searched mine and she nodded. We sat in quiet understanding, the warmth of her hand in mine enough to banish the chill of the evening air. "But there's more," she whispered. "I've been thinking, what if we could change things? For everyone." "What do you mean?" I asked, intrigued. "What if we could show them that love is not something to be feared but celebrated? That a union between two people who truly care for one another is stronger than any political alliance?" Enid spoke with a passion that set my heart racing. "If we stand together, maybe we can start a revolution of acceptance and understanding across the realms. A future where love isn't dictated by crown or birthright, but by the heart's true desires." Her words resonated deep within me. To think that we could not only be together, but also be the catalyst for change in a world governed by archaic laws and traditions was exhilarating. It was a quest more noble than any battle I had ever fought. I leaned into her, feeling the warmth of her breath against my cheek. "We'll need to be careful," I cautioned, stroking her hand. "But if we stand firm and refuse to be pawns in their games, perhaps we can pave the way for others like us. It's a risk, but if we're together, I'm ready to face whatever comes our way. For you, I'd face an entire army of darkness itself, darling." Her smile was my sun, banishing any lingering shadows of doubt. "Then let's do it. We'll start here in Queen Augusta's court, and spread the word of our love and our convictions. Maybe, just maybe, we can convince your father to accept us as we are and join our causes together." The idea was ludicrous, but hope was a potent elixir. We turned our gazes back to the horizon, where the sun kissed the earth goodbye, painting the sky in hues of fiery orange and deep purple. The beauty of it was a stark contrast to the battles we had left behind, but it was a promise of a new dawn, a promise of change. The months passed, and we became a beacon of hope within the castle walls. Our bond grew stronger as we navigated the complexities of courtly life, whispering sweet nothings in the quiet of the night, sharing our fears and dreams. I taught Enid the art of the sword, and she, in turn, taught me the whispers of the wind and the secrets of the earth. We were knight and mage, a formidable pair, united by love and the will to change the world. One night, the castle was ablaze with torches and laughter as we hosted a grand feast. The air was thick with the scent of roasting meats and the sound of minstrels playing. In the great hall, Enid and I danced, her gown swirling around us like a living flame, and for a moment, I forgot the battles we had fought to get here. Her eyes sparkled with mischief as she leaned closer. "I have something to show you," she murmured, her breath tickling my ear. She led me through a hidden passage to a chamber filled with scrolls and ancient tomes. On the table lay a parchment, its edges burnished with gold. The ceremony is ancient, but the words are clear. If we perform it, we'll be bound in a way that even the gods would recognize. I took the scroll from her, feeling the weight of history in my hands. The words were a declaration of love and unity, a pledge that went beyond the bonds of marriage or knighthood. It was an oath that we would stand as one forever. "We're already bound in spirit, but if this is what you wish, I'm with you," I said, my voice thick with emotion. Enid's smile was brighter than any jewel in the crown. "It's what I've always wished for, Brianna. To be bound to you forever and always. Let's do it tonight, under the same moon that watched over us when we were children in East Abria. Let's show them all that love is the greatest magic of all." The rest of the evening was a blur of excitement and anticipation. We waited until the castle had settled into sleep, and then we slipped away into the moonlit night. In the quiet of the chamber, we lit the candles and began the incantation. The air grew thick with power, and as we exchanged our vows, I felt a warmth suffuse me, a bond forming between us that was stronger than any chain of gold or steel. When the ceremony was complete, we sealed our union with a kiss, feeling the warmth of our love and the promise of a future together. We knew the path ahead would be fraught with challenges, but we were ready to face them as one. We had each other, and that was all that mattered. As we emerged from the chamber, hand in hand, the whispers grew louder. The courtiers had noticed our absence, and the whispers of our union had begun to spread like wildfire through the castle. Some stared with open hostility, while others offered knowing smiles. We walked with our heads held high, daring anyone to question our right to be together. The next morning, Queen Augusta called for a private audience. She sat upon her throne, her expression unreadable. My heart pounded in my chest, but I stepped forward, Enid's hand in mine, ready to face whatever she had to say. "Your Highness," I began, but she held up a hand to silence me. "I know what you have done, Dame Brianna, and I know what you intend to do. Your love for Enid is clear, and I respect the bond you have formed. However, the realms are not ready for such a revolution. You must be careful, for your actions could incite rebellion or worse, war. But if you are willing to be my emissaries of peace, to travel to East Abria and seek an alliance built on the foundation of true love and mutual respect, then I will support you both fully." The weight of her words settled over us, and I felt a new determination surge within me. "We are ready, Your Highness," I said, my voice firm. "Good, for you will need all your strength and wit. Prepare yourselves, for you leave on the morrow." The journey to East Abria was fraught with tension. We traveled openly as the Queen's envoys, but we knew that our true mission was a dangerous one. As we approached the castle where we had both grown up, my heart felt heavier than my armor. When we arrived, the gates were thrown open, and my father, King Thaddeus, looked surprised and wary as we dismounted. Enid stepped forward, her eyes shining with the same fiery determination that had fueled our escape. "Father, I come to you not as a daughter in need of rescue, but as a woman with a vision for the future. A future where love is not a crime, and where we can stand together, united in our beliefs and our love for each other. Will you join us in this quest for acceptance?" King Thaddeus's expression was stony, his eyes flicking between us. But then, something softened in his gaze as he looked at his daughter. "You have always had a wild spirit, Enid. And you, Brianna. I had hoped you would find your place in the world. Perhaps this is it. I will consider your proposal, but you must understand, I cannot betray the traditions of our realm without cause. Give me a reason to believe in this revolution of the heart, and perhaps we can find a way to bring peace to the 8 realms without bloodshed." The conversation was tense, but there was a glimmer of hope in the king's words. As we retired to our chambers that night, I couldn't help but feel a flicker of excitement. We had taken the first step toward changing the fate of our people. The following days were a whirlwind of negotiations and private conversations. Enid and I worked tirelessly, sharing our story and our beliefs with anyone who would listen. And slowly hearts began to change. Knights and nobles alike spoke of the love they had been forced to hide, and the hope we had brought them. It seemed our tale had struck a chord that resonated through the very stones of the castle. One evening, as we sat in the great hall, a messenger rushed in, breathless and flustered. He approached the king, bowing low. "Your Grace, an envoy from the neighboring kingdom of Westwood has arrived, seeking an audience. They bring a proposal of marriage for the princess, and an ultimatum. Accept or face war on 2 fronts." The hall fell silent, the air thick with the scent of fear and anger. Enid and I looked at each other, our hearts racing. This was it, the moment we had been dreading. The king's gaze landed on us, and I could see the turmoil in his eyes. But then something changed. He took a deep breath and stood, his voice strong and sure. "Send them away. My daughter's hand is not for sale. The time for old ways is over. Let it be known that the alliance between East Abria and Westwood will be one of friendship, not coercion. We stand for love and freedom, and together, we will show the world that a new day is dawning." The cheers that filled the hall were deafening, and I felt tears prick my eyes. Our love had become more than just a personal quest. It was a beacon of change for the entire kingdom. The knights and nobles raised their goblets in our honor, and I knew that this was the start of something momentous. In the days that followed, Enid and I worked alongside my father, crafting treaties and sharing our vision of a world where love was celebrated, not feared. The whispers of our union grew into a roar that echoed through the halls of the castle and beyond, reaching the ears of the other 7 realms. Some called us rebels, but others, inspired by our courage, whispered of us as pioneers of a new era. ChatGPT said, "ChatGPT, patient and bide your time," Queen Augusta continued, her voice grave. "There may come a moment when the realms are ripe for the change you seek. Until then, you must play your roles carefully, for the sake of peace and for the future you wish to build." Enid's hand tightened in mine, her blue eyes searching my face. I could feel her desire to push forward, to be bold and claim our love for all to see. But the queen was right. There was more at stake than just our happiness. We had to be smart. "We understand, Your Highness," I said, bowing my head. "We will be cautious and await the right time." Queen Augusta's gaze softened as she looked at us, her expression shifting from stern monarch to compassionate aunt. "I see the strength of your bond, and I will support you in my way. But remember, change is like a river. It can carve its path slowly, yet still shape the world." With a nod, she dismissed us, and we left the throne room with a newfound resolve. As we walked through the castle, the whispers continued, but they no longer filled me with dread. They were a reminder that what we had was worth fighting for, even if that fight would take time. Later that night, as we lay beneath the stars in the castle gardens, Enid rested her head on my shoulder. "We'll change the world, Brianna," she whispered, her voice filled with quiet determination. "One day they will all see." I pressed a kiss to her forehead, feeling the strength of our love surge through me. We will, I promised. Together. And as the night sky stretched endlessly above us, we knew that no matter how long the journey ahead, we would face it side by side, hearts bound by a love stronger than any kingdom, any crown, and any law. Together we would forge a new world.